Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago, and across the globe. Welcome to Real Talk Corner. Hadassa, how are you?
Hi, I am fine, thank you. How are you, Esther?
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago, and all our viewers across the globe. This is Real Talk Corner, where conversation sparks what it is? Change. Conversation sparks what? Change, people. We need change. I tell you, and every voice matter on this program. And I'm your host, Dr. Esther Cruickshank. And my co-host is not yet with me. She is going to be on late, but I'm missing her already. On this beautiful Thursday, listen, it's the 2nd of October, one of the good months in the year. Yeah, it's getting closer to Christmas, they say. But the best month just finished, all right? So, again, welcome. I want to welcome each and every one of you. And it's a pleasure always to be here. I want to thank my producer and editors and everybody who have been working hard to ensure that this program is successful in the sense that it reach as many people as it should reach, and as many people that needs to hear what we have to say, and also to know that their voice matter. So send in your comments, your concern, and be respectful. Yeah, it doesn't matter. This is our truth. It is called Real Talk. We speak the truth, and we speak the truth according to our maybe opinions. People would say that, but we look at things in a holistic way, and we try to be as truthful and as real as can be. Okay, so I'm here with you until my co-host join. I'm here alone. I have one guest that is going to come on, but I wanted, I was scrolling through Facebook today, and I saw something that I really want to play, and is a conversation, or should I say a speech or a talk by the deceased former Prime Minister Basdeo Pandey, talking about reform, and I wanted to play that tonight. I think it is important that we listen to what he said, and that would have been a couple years ago, but it still stands for today, and I trust that this government at some point in time is going to go to that realm. Okay, let's play that, producer.
I think the president should be elected by the people on the basis of one man, one vote. And having elected the president on the basis of one man, one vote, the president must be entitled to choose his cabinet from the most intelligent people in the country, not necessarily those who have been elected. Because you see, an election does not necessarily throw up intelligent people. Often it throws up a man with a big mouth. I thought you all were going to say yes, one is speaking to me. But that's all right. So that if our country is to be run properly, we must use our best brains. How are we going to use our best brains unless a president elected by and responsible to the people, see the connection, has the power to nominate, select his cabinet. Having selected his cabinet, the president now formulates his policy for the year. But in order to implement that policy, he must go to the parliament for monies to implement it. But the parliament he's going to is not the present one we have. The parliament he's going to is a unicameral government. That has also been said here. We are too small a country to have a Senate. And in fact, the Senate was only introduced into the Constitution because we were following the British pattern. They had a House of Lords, so we must have a mini House of Lords. They serve no purpose, really. If the senators want to represent the people, let them be responsible to the people. To whom are they responsible right now? to the president? No. Those who are nominated by the PNM are responsible to the PNM. And those who are appointed by the PP government are responsible to the PP government. So already there is a duplication. The 9 others that are appointed by the president is responsible to nobody. So we do not need a bicameral government, we need a unicameral government. But a unicameral government of a different kind. A unicameral government that is made up of about 100 members. Already we have 74. So 100 members, but 100 members elected on the basis of proportional representation. Now I've heard a friend of mine across there talk about the complications of proportional representation. I suggest the simplest form of proportional representation, which is if we have an electorate of 800,000 persons and a parliament of 100, then any person getting 8,000 or more votes is entitled to a seat in the parliament. It's the simplest form of PR. We don't have to go through the second preference votes and all that sort of thing. What is going to be the result of this? What is going to happen? That kind of voting is going to break the historical pattern of racial voting that has plagued this country for decades. Come the next election, if the elections are held under the present constitution, we shall repeat what we have been doing for 50 years. That is to say, one group will be in the opposition and the next racial group will be in the parliament and so on. But if we go on the basis of proportional representation, then people will elect members on the basis of their economic as opposed to their racial interests. The farmers will get together and say, we are going to put a member in parliament because whenever we elect anybody else, they don't represent us, but we are going to put farmers, a group of farmers are going to get together and they are going to put 4 or 5 farmers in the parliament. The taxi drivers, the business community, even the churches if they wish. Whoever, in a multicultural, highly plural society that we have, it is the only way in which there will be the broadest spectrum of people taking part in the political decision-making process, which is what we are saying over and over. We want the people to participate. Where are the people?
Okay, so there you have it. I have always talked about reformed before, and I kind of like what deceased Basile Pandey was saying. But before we go forward, I want to welcome my co-host, who is on, my beautiful co-host, Hadassa Charles McLeod. And it's always good to have you. I started to miss you, and you look so lovely in the pink. And I don't know if you were hearing what deceased Basile Pandey was saying. And I kind of like the idea of, you know, proportional representation. And I think all sector of our country should have good representation in our parliament. All right, I know PNM, UNC, whatever, they would have tried to put persons in different constituency. But I think this, what he's sharing with respect to having all sectors in parliament, for instance, someone representing agriculture, who knows about agriculture, who's there? Someone representing taxi drivers, because he used that word, right? Taxis in the rural areas, wherever, to represent transportation. Let's put it that way, transportation. Who knows about it? Someone, he talked about the church, put in someone who understands, not necessarily a pastor, but someone who's involved. So you could have a priest, you could have a pundit, you could have a bishop, that kind of stuff. So they represent the different sectors of our country. And I think that's the way we should look, and I'm hoping that the government, at some point before the 5 years up, that they'll look into reform, constitutional reform, because even in local government, I find that there are counselors who work very hard and there are those who doesn't. And sometimes I see things within certain constituency and I'm saying there is counselors for every district. Why is this like that? Or is it that they are giving reports to their MPs and nothing is being done? But we know how that really goes. But if we want a successful nation, country, communities, I think we need to be a little more diligent and we really need constitutional reform. How are you doing, Hadassa?
Pastor, thank you for asking. Good night, Trinidad and Tobago. It's good to be on. Again, another episode of Real Talk Corner. Um, I didn't get the entire clip, so I came in while it was playing. But to your point, Esther, and to the late Basdio Pandey's point, what we have in Trinidad is a cut and paste system. We almost wholehandedly took what the British has and applied it here, where I don't think it actually works because for one of the reasons we are a much smaller country, and yeah, we need to have representations for smaller groups that have an impact on our economy and the way that our country goes. Um, Even we were talking a couple of weeks ago about the fact that we don't necessarily need a president, and the fact that we have senators, and it almost seems like a duplication of it seems a bit superfluous and things like that. So it'll be nice to see some reform where it actually benefits the people. For one thing, I would like to see is hiring and firing of officials who are not um, doing their job, who are not representing the people. I feel like we should be able to have the ability to get rid of them before the 5 years. That is one thing I actually really admire about the British system. In a 5 year period, they could have two, three, four prime ministers because the British people, once they're not happy with you, they get rid of you. Um, so yeah, we can talk more about that. I think I may probably need to listen to the clip in the entirety for me to get more context. But we have known for a while that the system that we have does not work for us, and even the way that the constituencies are set up. When you look at the map of Trinidad and Tobago on election night, and you realize that all PNM constituencies are concentrated in a very small area, but that represents so many seats, and then the rest of the map is yellow, and that represents so many UNC seats. It doesn't seem fair. It also doesn't seem balanced. I think we actually need to rethink how we have proportional representation in truth.
And the firing and hiring is what they call the recall legislation. But I think there
Yes.
needs to be a committee put together to study this whole thing properly, to study our culture, study our population before they can make, the decision. It shouldn't be a jump, quick and fast and hard thing. It has to be properly studied and planned out. And yes, we have spoken about president. I don't think we need to have a president and a prime minister. Everything here goes back to the British, I think, the days of the British colonial. But what I'm saying to the senators, are they really selected? I don't want to say biasly. Are they selected? For instance, the president would select senators and call them independent senators. And when you check
But
them
they're
out,
not.
it really belongs to whoever that
Yeah.
president belongs to,
Yeah.
who they support, whether it's the
Yes.
PNM or the UNC. They will
Yeah.
choose people based
Yeah.
on that. All right? And then, of course,
Yeah.
the PNM have the senators for them and everything. It's like a whole lot of, crazy stuff that happens because they're not independent. The senators for the UNC and will carry out the business and what's the word I want to put there? The business of the UNC. The ones for the PNM will carry out the business for the PNM. So whether or not the PNM is talking nonsense, is doing nonsense, they support that. Whether or not the UNC is talking nonsense, doing nonsense, or whichever other party, they're going to support that. And the independent senators, based on the president, if the president is picked by the UNC or by the PNM, they support that. So there is no real genuine fairness or independence. Everybody,
Yeah.
is picked. And I like when he talked about the one vote, one person, one man, one vote. As a matter of fact, I don't think we need to have a president. I said it before. It's either we have a president or we have a prime minister. Either one. We shouldn't have a president and a prime minister. All right. And
Yeah.
I think a committee needs to be put together to deal with those situations, because I don't think it's working for us at all. And there's a lot of money that is being spent to have these two heads of government in place. And to me, there are a lot of clashes. Right? Forget one. It's either we keep a president or we keep a prime minister, and let us continue doing what has to be done. So I just wanted to play that.
Indeed.
Yeah, I just wanted to play that because, it would have been said by him for a very long time, and you hear this over and over about constitutional reform, and nothing never really happens when these
No.
parties are in power. So I just wanted
I
to share
actually
that.
really like the idea of one man, one vote. If
Yes,
you think about it, if we were to do it that way, I think the UNC would always overwhelmingly win,
yes,
because they would always win the popular vote. The way that it is set up now, we have constituencies stacked in favor of the PNM, but they don't necessarily have proportional votes. So that if we actually want to take every citizen's vote into consideration, we get rid of the constituency based system and we vote on the person who gets the most votes from everybody, and then that is the person who wins. I mean, it'll be really interesting to probably understand the. I know the reason for the constituencies is because this was based on the British system that you will get somebody from your district and from your area to go and represent you as a member of parliament. But as it is right now, we don't really have this separation. We have members of parliament who also have portfolios, right? That is one thing I would actually like to see separated, where you could be member of parliament and your job is to take care of your constituency alone, and then you have somebody else who is appointed to, say, minister of education or energy, etc., etc., etc. I feel like with the ministers having both portfolios, I don't know if they get the time necessarily to really take care of their constituencies. And I think that is a very, very heavy role in itself.
I totally agree with that, Hadassa, because what happens, one suffer is either the
Yes.
function of an MP suffer or the
Yeah.
function of the ministerial part. And most time it is the function of the MP for the
Yes.
constituency. Most time those are the areas that suffer. Now, I mean, it
Yeah.
can work if the councillors are hold to task to do what they are supposed to
Yes.
do and to report to the MP. Yes, but for 90% of the time, most
It
of the
doesn't work.
councillors are not performing. They are not in their district seeking out what has to be done for the businesses. So,
Yeah.
something has to be done. It's either more pressure is put on the councillor to come to the MP, and of course there should be an executive in every constituency, a functional executive where the
Yes.
councillors come together once a month with the MP and have these meetings based on what
These
they have to do.
conversations.
And if certain
Yes.
things are
Yeah.
not happening, you hold the councillors responsible because they are
Yes.
there. And I mean, all these people get paid. All these people, this is money that is being disbursed, and yet we are not seeing, things happening within our constituency. Something go wrong, the
Yeah.
grass is too high, there are potholes, there whatever. Sometimes they say they report it to the MP. But I think it is too much for an MP who is a minister to deal with all of that. So the councillor's duty is to really pull their weight, and then you have a functioning executive that is also going to assist. And then the councillors now have an office where they have probably two persons, maybe a secretary and whoever is there. So it really should work. But you're seeing all of this, and yet it is not working. So we either
No.
have to put policies in place where if you're not functioning, we fire you and put somebody
Yeah.
else, the recall for ministers should be for counselors and everybody else. If you're not functioning,
Yeah.
then go home. Find something else. Then
Yeah.
that is not your job. You don't like it. You're not going out and meeting the people and finding out what are the needs in your district to bring to the constituency executive. Then, But of course, there must be a functioning constituency executive, and that meeting on a monthly basis, the MP should have no excuse but to be there. So you have a meeting
Yeah.
where the MP is going to be there, and you get all the reports, and the MP can go back now to their respectful place, whether it's Parliament or where they go to lodge their reports or in their ministry. Do that, and then you would see something happening. But right now, things are really not happening. And while, that is what I pull out, and I think it is time that we have constitutional reform. But then there's another clip that I want my producer to play. And this is very interesting.
According to the State of Black America by the Urban League, if we started right now, they said, we could never close the gap to black poverty and white poverty. She said, let us start right now. Let's forget the past. Notice this. When Jewish people remember the Holocaust and want the world to remember the Holocaust. Wait. Why do you want the world to remember? Because if the world does not remember, it is likely to repeat itself. And Jewish persons who suffered from the Holocaust want the world to remember this because the world turned its back while Jews were put in ovens. I, as a black person, want my people to remember what we have suffered and what we continue to suffer so that we will say like the Jews, never again. Never again.
Great. And that is exactly, I played this clip because I wanted us to remember. Sometimes they tell you, you're talking about the Africans and the suffering and whatever. We shouldn't be talking that over and over. But we have to sing the song over and over because the African people must never forget. If others want to forget, we must never forget what we have been through, what we are still going through, and we continue to fight. And with this, I want to introduce a clip, something that has been happening here in Trinidad with our breakfast shed. And a lot of times you say something and people are just saying, well, it's time for the African people to do this, and how much time they would complain about this. And I hear all of that. It's time for us to come together. And that has been my song. Let us come together, stand together, support one another so we can go forward in strength. And you would find a lot of things that is happening will not happen. Because one, we would be able to empower one another as to how to manage their resources, how to manage their business. Because a lot of us, we start business, we do things, and we fall apart. One, because we do not support one another. Two, because the Africans who are in power, when we look to them to help us and to guide us properly, they do not do that. As a matter of fact, they throw us in the gutter. And tonight, hearing about the breakfast shed, and on Tuesday I spoke about it, and some people would have made their comments, and I talked about the Mr. Aboud talking about how much rent, that they haven't paid, and everybody had the worst to say. But I have someone online that I want to talk to. I want him to talk and let Trinidad and Tobago know what is the true story, what is the real story behind the breakfast shed, how it happened at the initial stage, what took place, what didn't take place, and why it has reached to where it is today, so that you would be empowered with the truth and not with hearsay and everybody saying what they want to say. So let's introduce my colleague and friend, who is the attorney representing the breakfast shed tenants, no other person than I call him Sir Kenneth, attorney Sir Kenneth Brown, Monroe Brown.
Yes. Good evening to all your listeners. Thank you for that most welcoming introduction, Madam Cruickshank. What can I say? We are not all young persons. Some of us are quite old. Some of us are, in our 60s, 70s, 80s, and so on. The young persons of this country, it would be unfair to ask them to remember something that didn't take place in their time. But there are many of us who have been around in the age of majority in the year 2005, a whole lot of us. And it seems to me that a lot of our people we have very short memories. So I want to come in and say that in 2005, I represented the breakfast shed when a person by the name of Calderhart, some people have managed to hate him a lot, others managed to love him. I think he needs to be loved for the big buildings that he put up. We're ungrateful in the sense to turn on him in the way that we did, but that's life. But he really lifted Port of Spain. So, I don't know if he's alive, but congratulations to you, Mr. Calderhart. But I wasn't congratulating him back in 2005. Why was I not congratulating him? He wanted to remove the breakfast shed from where it was and put them, leave them on their own, as it were, find whatever spaces you can find wherever. And when the cooks called me, and there were 15 of them at the time in the breakfast shed, the galvanized shed located around the Hyatt Tower D Judicial Complex area there, just at the start of Dock Road. And they called me and they said, "This is wrong, they're trying to move us and we don't want to move us." I said, "Well, let us fight. We don't have to go to court." They said, "No, we don't want to go to court. We don't want all that sort of, excitement and what have you." So we started a campaign to ensure that they got two things. One, proper compensation for the dislocation, and two, to get a long 99-year or 199-year lease. Now, the initial offer to each cook was about $20,000 by UDCOT. And I told them to reject that. Then it went to $50,000. And I started a media campaign with, you would remember the names of George Mbalif and Gladiator, Ricardo Welch. In fact, Ricardo Welch was the main catalyst in terms of the person who was traveling in the media every morning, making a lot of noise on the radio about what's been done to these African people down at the breakfast shed, and the galvanized shed, that is. And so, together with that effort, things kept moving upwards. And things move up to 100,000 per cook, 150,000 over the weeks as the time passed by. And it went all the way up, eventually creeping up to 150,000, all the way up to $500,000 per cook. At that point, something happened. I was invited to the home of Carlton Phillips, QC, the great Carlton Phillips, one evening. And he didn't tell me why I was being invited. But Carl had a guest who came in from the United Kingdom, which is a judge by the name of John Roberts, QC himself. And he was my pupil master, one of my pupil masters in England, who showed me the way of the ropes, as it were, around the courts. And he wanted to surprise me. So Carl said, look, the pupil master when I arrived there at his home in Elizabeth Street. And in Carl's study, there was another man sitting there. His name was Herbert Atwell. And I spoke to Mr. Herbert Atwell. I said, Herbert Atwell, I know you're the advisor to Mr. Manning. Can you speak with Mr. Manning and see status? And ask him, to do something for these cooks down there, because they're being squeezed and they're crying every day and whatnot and what have you. They're flustered. And, he said to me, Mr. Brown, yes, I'll do something. And he did something. He arranged for a meeting with the breakfast shed cooks and the Prime Minister. I was not present at that meeting because I suppose that the Prime Minister Manning wanted to keep things one-on-one with the cooks. And after everything was done, what was offered was a mere $100,000 on a promise that they would get a permanent home. Now, they fell out with me and I fell out with them, largely because I felt that I supposed to have been present to represent them at the Prime Minister's office. And, things went south as it were. So they went on, did their business, and somehow the transaction never got complete in terms of whether they would get the 400,000 and the lease, the long-term lease or not. So time ran on and things went on, and they could give them a tenancy, which they should not have done. And they had to pay a rent of about $22,000 a month. And, things went on. But then COVID came. So many years passed. COVID came. And as COVID arrived, most of the businesses, all of the businesses had to close for about a year. And so, but why is that those businesses were closed on this new building, this new
Okay, I think we have a little situation here with our internet. So we're waiting on, let's take a break. We're going to come right back.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago, and of course the globe. Welcome to Real Talk Corner. Hadassa, how are you?
Hi. I am fine, thank you. How are you, Esther?
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago, and of course the globe. Welcome to Real Talk Corner. Hadassa, how are you?
Hi. I am fine, thank you. How are you, Esther?
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago, and of course the globe. Welcome to Real Talk Corner. Hadassa, how are you?
Hi. I am fine, thank you. How are you, Esther? And we're back. Mr. Bridges, thank you so much for that clip. Knowledge is power, and I couldn't help but take some notes. And I remember back in the day of the voices of Umbala and Gladiator, and they were really the only voices back then who were brave enough to stand up to the PNM administration back then, who used to really speak truth to power and talk about the state of the Afro Trinbagonian community. I really appreciate Mr. Attorney Kenneth Monroe because, okay, he's back on now. We can go back to Attorney Monroe.
Attorney, sir?
Are you there?
Sir, Attorney
Yes,
Kenneth?
hello?
All right,
Okay,
so you can
perfect.
continue. Sorry about that, but you
Hello?
can continue
Yeah.
now. Yes, yeah. Go
Am
ahead.
I being heard?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Right. Thank God. Right. So
It seems as though we are still having some difficulty
so
here.
just
All right.
He doesn't seem to have a good connection.
No, this time he's not coming through clearly.
Well, take, take.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago, and of course the globe. Welcome to Real Talk Corner. Hadassa, how are you?
Hi, I am fine, thank you. How are you, Esther?
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago, and of course the globe. Welcome to Real Talk Corner. Hadassa, how are you?
Hi, I am fine, thank you. How are you, Esther? Tony Monroe back on the line. But until then, I just wanted to say I don't think the Prime Minister back then, Mr. Manning, acted in good faith in shutting the attorney out of that meeting, because you realize as time went on, the terms of that conversation changed. Whereas they were supposed to get a permanent home and a certain amount of money, by the time it was actually realized, it was less money, and then they had to pay a rent, which was not what was agreed. I mean, I feel the lesson there is whenever you have a legal situation, always make sure that you have an attorney present. Because this brings me to an article that I came across where Mr. Ramdeen, uh, Gerald Ramteen, the NGC chairman, was talking about the millions of dollars that is owed to the NEC for port tugs payers, and he was talking about the number of persons who have leases that they have paid 2 cents for and things like that. And these are the same people who get access to these types of opportunities. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. But then when things like this happen with the breakfast, they're also the first ones to come and say that, nothing is for free. And you guys know exactly what I am talking about. It is so unfair. I feel like I could probably read part of the article because it says National Gas Company Chairman Gerald Ramdeen says it is obscene and scandalous that over $500 million is owed to its subsidiary, the National Energy Corporation, for the industrial use of tugs, ports, and piers. He has therefore initiated a crackdown to retrieve these funds. This is also really very telling because the PNM really left us in a monkey pants. So in the article, he went on to talk about the fact that they have been able to recoup some of this money, right? Some of it to the tune of, I think it's 94 million US dollars or something like that, and other large sums of money, right? And this is why we have a situation where we are strapped for cash now, because we have all these entities, we have all these bodies, we have all these boards that did not make sure that people were paying their due. We were literally having people mooching off of the treasury, mooching off of our resources, of our assets, and not paying their fair share. It is why so many of our institutions are in debt, because we are not collecting the monies that we are supposed to be collecting to make sure that this country runs properly, right? And these same people now, Colm Imbert and others, are scoffing and laughing and making derisive comments about our now Minister of Finance, Mr. Tanku, and they're making all kind of comments about when is the budget going to be read and this and that and the other, and the reason why our SMP ranking has fallen is because of the the mid-year appropriations and things like that, when all of it is untrue, right? There's no founding to it, you know, because our country has not been managed and stewarded properly. When we talk about the fact that PNM has been feeding at the trough, this is what I mean. It has been generations of different assets, of different things where people are supposed to be paying a certain amount of money that is going to contribute to our GDP, our revenue, and things like that. And it has not been the case. But we're going to come back to this because I believe our guest is back on. I hope we have a better connection. Attorney Kenneth Monroe, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I don't know if you're hearing
Great.
me clearly.
We can hear you loud
We're
and clear.
hearing
You
you
can go
now.
ahead now.
Yes, so you can go ahead.
Yes. Yes. Well, just to wrap up then, in short, the Patrick Manning administration was supposed to give these refugees a permanent home, which they promised. That didn't happen. They were supposed to give them another $400,000 per cook. That didn't happen. And so now the problem has ended up in the current administration's hand, the UNC's hands. And so we're hoping, and we heard Mr. Warner has come out in support, which is extremely good. And we're hoping that the powers that be in the UNC would pull their heads together and say, listen, yes, the PNM made a mess of it, but we are going to have to clean it up, quite simply. Because, they have been there for all these years. They were uprooted back then from their breakfast shed galvanized structure, and promises were made and not kept. So it's about time that somebody does something to help them, and we trust that the existing administration, the Prime Minister Kamala Bissessar, will jump in and put things right for these cooks. The hard part about it is that most of them have gone in different directions, but I'm sure we could find them, their families or what have you. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, let me thank you, Sir Kenneth, so very much for coming and giving that explanation so that our viewers and everybody who follows us have a better understanding as to what took place. So thank you so much. We appreciate you. And we trust that you are going to be able to bring this home for the breakfast shed tenants. And this time around that they wouldn't be tenants, but owners, and they'll be able to manage whatever that they're going to get. So you see, viewers, Trinidad and Tobago, this is what I keep talking about, and some people are distressed about it. They don't want to hear that. But it is always about the PNM not doing due diligence for the African people, and then who now has to fix it? Because for a whole decade, the breakfast shed has been having their situation, their problems, and could they open their mouth and talk to the PNM? Who was supposed to make sure that they have their stuff in order. But no, the UNC is in power, and that is who has to fix it for them. And yes, we are expecting that the goodly, honorable Prime Minister is going to come in and do something or send someone to help them, because here it is, they could never catch themselves from that. And here it is as well. You have the Syrians and the whoever talking about Africans always wanting free, and who always wanting free. But no, they didn't get justice at the beginning. And the deceased Prime Minister then, Patrick Manning, did not allow them to come with their attorney, bring them by themselves so they could outsmart them and fool them. And some of us, we're so stupid before we stand up and say, no, we're not having this conversation without our attorney. All you're going in because, you know what? All you look up to the Prime Minister, our African Prime Minister, who you think will do good for you all, but didn't. I hope that you all learned your lesson. I hope that the African community learned their lesson. And this has nothing to do with race. It is the fact that when PNM is in power, you Africans get nothing. We Africans get nothing from them. And I'm talking about those of us who are not the hierarchy, who is not on top, the middle class and those on the ground, yeah? Nothing good, because you know what? They don't see us with worth. They see us with a few dollars that will make you more frustrated. And I am praying and hoping that this is going to be solved. We need the UNC government now, yeah? We need them to help us. And I pray that they're going to find the ways and the means to make sure that you all get back inside there so we could have our cuckoo and callaloo and stew fish and provision and all the things that People look forward, even when they come from the States for carnival and whatever, we look forward to going there and getting a good meal, a good African meal. All right? So I pray that that is going to be served. I really pray.
Indeed. Is it $22,000 a month Attorney Monroe said these people were paying?
Yes, they had to pay that. I think collectively, I think that is what they had to pay. If I am left to be corrected, but I think it's about 22,000 a month amongst the few people. They had to pool that together and pay. And I mean, how much you used to go there and get food at a very reasonable price. You understand? They didn't individually, it wasn't supposed to be paying a whole lot. But with $22,000, if you calculate that, it is plenty, and you still have to pay electricity separate.
Well, if it is $22,000 collectively when the breakfast shed was full and it had a lot of tenants, that is one thing. But I understand in the last couple of months it had dwindled down to only four cooks. There were only
And not
four
only
stalls
that,
that were open.
remember what he said during the COVID period, everything was shut down and they still had
Yes,
to pay this money. So
yes.
rightfully, they are supposed, what do you call them? Who are they the own saying they are the owners, who they playing the UDCUT. UDCUT is supposed to waive all of that money. I don't care what they have to say and I don't care what comments people may want to put. UDCUT needs to waive that, and something has to be done even with the electricity. The money that they're supposed to give them, the 400,000, let them give it to them so that they could pay the electricity bill. And somebody needs to help them to manage their resources properly.
Mr. Monroe is already gone because I really would have liked to find out what, if anything, would have been done for these persons during the pandemic. If they received any type of business grant or anything like that to keep them above board. And
They
of
got
course, we know that
nothing.
they
They
got
got
nothing. And
nothing.
even
I am telling
after the
you,
pandemic, we know that it has not been the same since.
I am telling you, Hadassa, during the pandemic, they got nothing. Okay, there was nothing given to them to keep them afloat. Nothing. All right? To know the truth before they start saying all the negatives that they are saying. And if they want to say negative, well, so be it. Gregory Aboud and all of them, they could talk up wherever they want to talk up. But the truth is, they have benefited from this country more than anybody else. All right? And these African people, they need justice. The breakfast shed mustn't be taken away from them to give it to who? The 1%? No. We need them. We need to help them. The government of today, sadly sad, but they are the government here and they are the only one who's going to reach out and help them. Because guaranteed, if the PNM was in power, I don't think they was going to do anything for them in any case. And that has always been my problem.
I mean, I had a way more favorable opinion of Mr. Manning. But all these things are coming to light, and you realize that, hmm, he really wasn't for us. He really wasn't for us.
It was
And I
never.
could understand, feeling overwhelmed or in awe to be invited to a meeting with the prime minister, especially if you looked up to that person, right? And you expecting him to act in good faith and to do right, right? And you went into the meeting with certain expectations and you left with almost nothing. Even though he made certain promises. And that is the thing. I really want to thank Mr. Monroe for being a representative for these people, even since back then, because a lot of people would not have known. And again, I have to say how much I miss the voices of persons like Gladiator and Umbala. It is really sad that we lost them. A lot of people say that allegedly their deaths are very suspicious. Um, but they always used to be talking about, you know, the fact that we have
Justice of the African people.
yeah, that we have not been taken care of the way that we should have been taken care of given
Under,
the type of
under the
governments that
PNM
we've
government.
had. Yes.
Under the PNM government, who is supposed to be a party for the African people, right? We want to talk people like Carl Hudson Phillip. All these people, used to be advocate for the PNM to do well, do better for the African people. And the only reason deceased Manning would have called them there without the attorney is because he knew what he had, what he was about to do. He wasn't going to give them what they so deserved, give them what he and the 1% or whoever it was decided they're going to give them, what they think, what they believe that they deserve. It's not what the people really deserve. And like you said, they went there in good faith, believing, well, this is the prime minister. He's African like ourselves. It's under the PNM. He's going to do justice for us. He's going to give us what we desire and what we deserve, as a matter of fact. So leave out the attorney. Because the fact that you could call them together and tell them don't bring the attorney, it means that you had bad intention from the beginning.
Bad
You
intentions,
didn't want to give them what they're supposed to get, right? And when things run down, we African people have a way. We just like to take foolishness. We don't stand up and talk out, and we just suck up whatever. And that is what the PNM does to the African people. And then when you can't make it and everything gone down, who have to come and help you and bail you out? The very same UNC that Ollie doesn't want to support, right? The very same UNC who always say all kind of thing about the prime minister and this and that. That is the woman with the heart for the people to help you all. That is what goes on.
It seemed like it was a hard thing for him to give these people ownership. It seemed
He
like that
never
was a
wants
hard
to give
thing for
them
him to do.
ownership.
And it just so happened that this story came to light the very same time they're talking about the NGC and the fact that prime industrial lands have been leased to different persons. Of course, they have not been named for 2 cents. Could you
And
imagine
one
that?
dollar. And $1.
Even when you're broke, you could afford that, right? So that is going to ensure longevity. It's going to ensure certain things. It's going to ensure that you have something to build a legacy. Why was it so hard for Mr. Manning to do that for his people? Our loyalty has gotten us nowhere.
Absolutely nowhere. And they're still loyal to the PNM. 3/4 of them would still be loyal. I mean, come on, man. I don't care about loyalty. I talk about commitment, being honest, doing what is right. This loyalty thing, the only being I supposed to be loyal to is to God, through Jesus Christ, my Savior, right? Because He died for me. Being loyal to foolishness doesn't make sense. And you all need to, you need to lay the cards on the table. If you're going before these people, do not accept mediocre. Do not accept foolishness from them. If it's 500,000 you're supposed to get, we want it now. Give them 100,000 and owe them the 400,000 and never give it to them. They were supposed to be owners. You decide they're not going to be owners. You make them tenant. Come on. If it was the Syrians or other people, they would become owners. You'll give them ownership. But no, that is prime property. That's too good for the African people. And that is the PNM. It's too good for your own people who you say you're representing in this country. You think the Indian government will do that to the Indian people? Or if the Syrians are there? Well, hello. Even the African government is loyal to the Syrians because the Syrians have what they have because of the PNM. They have what they have because of the PNM. And we, as a people, as a community, we would not see it. This country is, let me don't say anymore. I trust that this is going to work out well for them. I trust that the attorney is going to be able to bring it home for them. And I know how he probably feeling as well because he was there with them in the beginning. And then they allow a prime minister to outsmart them. I calling it outsmart because you make them come into a meeting without your attorney and you accepted whatever they said they were going to give you. All right? And the rest, you never got it. So I hope this time they will not be so foolish. They will allow their attorney to be there to ensure that things go according to their benefit. Right? So that is all. You know what? I was listening to another clip this evening with a doctor who was fired. A young person, she would have made some racial statement. She is an African descent. And they would have fired her for more than 5 years now. And up to now, they are not allowing her to, be reinstated. And I'm saying she have paid her dues. 5 years she have studied. She would have made an error. We all make errors. It's not only African people that have racial statement. The Indians just do it. The Syrians just do it too. It just happened that she was caught, whoever taped her and put it on, and she was caught. But everybody needs a second chance. Don't we all need a second chance? And many people just get second chance. So come on, man. We behave as though some is dog and some is human and some is cat. All of us, we make errors from time to time. As long as you are born in this world and you're growing up, you're going to make errors. None of us is perfect. The only man that walked perfect on this earth was Christ Jesus. Nobody else. Other religion might say of whoever they believe in that they walk perfect. Okay, fine. But we as human beings and citizens of this country, we're going to make errors. We have preference. Behind closed doors, we say things that is not right, but we say it anyhow. We call nigger and coolie, them is the kind of thing we like to talk. I refrain from those foolishness because all of us were created. All of us were created by God. He didn't create no nigger, no coolie, and nothing else. He created human beings. Let's see one another as human beings, no man. With errors, we make errors. But do we hold it over one's head forever? People need a chance. We all need a chance. I am certain that every one of us did some kind of foolishness at some point in time. And we need to get the forgiveness of God and forgiveness of people. The woman made a mistake. She's now over 5 years that has happened. And we still holding this over the woman's head. How we expect her to live? We want to hear she commit suicide? Or we want to hear she get a heart attack? And we would feel better? Oh, please give me a break here tonight. Yes, Father God. Sometimes I just wonder what kind of human beings we are dealing with. And under the PNM, again, under the PNM, you know who would give her a break? It would be the UNC government. Watch and see. The only person to give her a break would be the UNC government. The heartless, criminal, cultish set of people under the PNM, they don't care about their own people. And that is why sometimes I wish I wasn't born in this country, but I'm a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. I would remain that, and I would fight. I would be an advocate for our people, both African and Indian, but more so the African, because let us be real, it is the African people who suffer the most. I'm not saying that the Indians don't. There are some of them who do, but the masses is the African. And if this government who is in power don't help us, we lost. For those who don't know God especially, we lost. It is sad.
Yeah.
It is very sad. But it is the reality.
I like that you played that clip of Mr. Farrakhan talking about remembering, because it seems as though people like to remember our failings and stuff like that. But as a collective, nobody likes to remember the wrong and the transgressions that were committed against people of African descent. They don't like to talk about it. They just get squeamish, just get uncomfortable. They just tell you enough time passed, get over it, and all kind of thing. And yet, still to this day, we are still dealing with the remnants of it. We are still dealing with people's biases. We are still dealing with the idea that we don't deserve, that we are less worthy, that we can't manage, that we uneducated and that we stupid and that we like crime, right? We are still dealing with that legacy of lies that have been held over our heads, right? Let us forget the other things, but we need to remember that we have a rightful stake and claim here in this country, and a lot of wrong has been done to us, and there has been a transfer of wealth, like the prime minister spoke to. I can speak about that as well, right? And we need to get back what is rightfully ours. And I found that there are soldiers like Attorney Monroe who are still in the trenches fighting to make sure that we get what we are actually justly due.
Definitely, definitely. And I thanking Attorney Monroe not, listen, that man goes beyond and he don't get thanks sometimes and people treat him with scorn. He's an African attorney that really goes out of his way to support the African community. And like I said, you support them and sometimes you don't want to do it because after they turn around and they stab you up in your head, in your back, in your foot. All right? But I am praying for God's strength over him because he goes beyond duty sometimes. And I know he may not see the reward now, but it is going to come to him. He have to have that faith. He have to have that courage. It's not easy dealing with our own African community of people because they seem to have short memory, okay? They seem to have short memory when you do for them. I mean, they listen to others who persuade them otherwise. But I will always be grateful to him for a lot of things he has been doing for me as well and many other African people and Indian people as well. And I know that if he stays strong, he may not see it now. Sometimes he may be discouraged, but good is going to follow him. And if he don't see the good, his offspring is going to see it. Trust me, his offspring is going to benefit from it. But it is just really sad to know that we as an African community, we can't stick together, we can't stand together, we cannot support each other because we have great ability, we have great knowledge, a lot of us. But what we do is we bring down one another, we pull down one another instead of we push and knowing and understanding that when you push one, you would keep going up too. Because if you're pushing me up where you would be, right behind me climbing the ladder, it's time for us to understand these things. All right? This is not a racist talk. This is sensible talk for the African community. You all need to think, rethink, and renew your mind as to how you think about your own people. Don't look for people with color and people with nice talk. You understand? Love your own. Then you could love anybody else. Love you, yourself, your own, and anybody else will come after. But let us do it together because at the end of the day, we are all Trinidadians, Tobagonians. We are all Trinidadians and Tobagonians, but we know that there are those who will never see us worth anything because they feel everything is for themselves. And they have everything in this country, basically nearly everything, with the exception of a few others. And they think that they're in control. But God, my prime ministers always say, God ain't sleeping. And sometimes she would say, he doesn't, what? He does put on pajamas, but he don't sleep. Whatever that meant, I know my God ain't sleeping. So let us continue to support one another and let us continue our African community to try to build. And anytime an African person is trying to support the African community, like the attorney talked about Umbala and all these people, they just disappear. You see, they get murdered or whatever. Suspiciously, they are off the scene because they are the voice of the people. They have been the advocate for the African community. Whatever they did, I don't know. I can't speak to it. But when I heard of their death, I was very saddened. People like Morgan Job and all these people who used to try to empower us as an African people. We were stupid, you know. Some people don't like to hear me say that, but oh gosh, we don't think. We don't think. We need to come together, begging them day after day. It have people who try, or like Professor Selwyn, Kojo and all these people, they have tried to bring the African people together. And you know what? It's the same African that's tried to bring them down. It's the same African people with all that they're doing. They say the worst and try to bring them down and then say nasty thing about them. They tried with me, but you know what with me? I don't give two hoots. You could say what you want to say about me. At the end of the day, God has the last say on my life, and that is what I respect. I don't respect what nobody else have to say, because what I am doing is for the good of our people and for this nation. So until then, we have said it. You have heard it. You got to deal with it. And if you don't want to deal with it, I am dealing with it so that I could reach where I am supposed to reach in this land and in this life. God bless all of you. Tomorrow, please God, is another day. I pray that we live to see it, and we'll be right back. Love you all. Goodbye.